Hey guys, how are you all going? So I mentioned on the channel a couple of days ago now that I was feeling a little bit under the weather and I was going to be taking I think I had already taken my family at that point to go and get tested for coronavirus. Now I'm happy to let you guys know that we got the results back a couple of days ago now and we all tested negative, which was really great news for us. And I really do hope that you guys are all staying safe and healthy out there in these crazy times that we're in at the moment. But yeah, I ended up getting quite sick over the last couple of days, lost my voice, wasn't really able to record any videos or do much useful around the house, anything like that. So what I've been doing is hiding away in here and sort of attending to a lot of little annoyances that I've had with the rig over the last couple of months, things that I've been wanting to fix up but just haven't had time in the normal craziness of day-to-day work as it stands here at Booster Media. Usually, you know, I'm filming most of the time that I'm awake or editing or doing stuff like that, and I just don't have a whole lot of time for fixing up little things that don't really need fixing but would be nice to fix. So what I wanted to do in today's video is take you through all the things that have changed on the rig since the last time we did a bit of a rig tour. So we're going to be focusing on those things specifically today. I'm not going to go through every single little component, but I will put some links in the description below for the previous tours that we've done, as well as the more detailed reviews and you know, videos focusing on the individual things that we'll be going through in today's video as well. So let's get started. Now, the main thing that you'll see that I've changed is the laptop is now mounted on a proper stand that we've kind of custom built here. This was my night's work last night, and I'm pretty proud of how it turned out, actually. So what I did was I put an arm coming down off the back of the monitor there. You can see the bracket there. So we've got just the support arm for the left-hand side monitor coming down. Then we've got a sort of bracket that I built. I'll flip underneath here so you can see it a bit better. So a square bracket with a opening on the back here, which coincides with the ventilation for the laptop, so we're not restricting the airflow. Now, I do need to do a little bit of thermal work on this laptop because it is quite noisy, as you can hear, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But that supports the laptop there. It doesn't swivel or anything like that. That might be something that we'll think about adding a little bit later. And then we've got this piece of 40 by 120 running down to the ground. That was one of my old uprights. I actually ended up getting some longer uprights for my wheelbase, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. But yeah, we ended up using the old one here as a support rail just to add a little bit of extra rigidity, and you can see I pushed down on that and it's really not moving much at all. So that's going to work out really well. Now this laptop, you have seen this before, it used to be sitting on a little nested table, and that is a HP Omen. It's actually a pretty darn high-end laptop, and it was being grossly underutilized previously. I was using it just to sort of monitor my stream as I was going. All the grunt work was being done by the desktop machine over here, the HP Omen desktop with the 2080 Ti and the 9700K, I think it is, it's in that machine. So yeah, this is a 9880HK processor from memory, a 2080 Max Q graphics card, 32 gig of RAM, and a 512 gigabytes SSD. So a pretty grunty little laptop, and I really wanted to make better use of this machine. So what it's responsible for now is all of my recording, all of my streaming, and everything like that. So we're using, as before, the NDI network stream coming out of the Sim PC over here. So that is responsible solely for running all of the hardware that's on the sim rig, as well as the sim software itself. So we're trying to minimize the amount of load that's on this machine and offload as much of the post-processing and video recording type responsibility onto the second machine. So the laptop is handling all of that, and I'm happy to report it seems to be doing a pretty darn good job of it so far. I haven't had any issues with frame rate or anything like that. As I mentioned, it is quite noisy at full steam, so I'm going to be seeing if I can do maybe some undervolting or something like that to try and get those temperatures down a bit, run those fans a little less harshly. But yeah, it seems to be doing the job quite well. Now, the other thing that I needed to do to get this running as well was run some more network cables throughout the house. So I actually ended up buying another networking hub to run through. So we've got points in the house now for pretty much every location that needs a connection, and wireless is only being used for mobile devices. So this is connected to a gigabit switch, or gigabit hub I should say, which is connected into the wall down over here. A little bit cable spaghetti like through here still. And then we've got another physical connection running back to the sim machine as well. And then we've got one webcam connection here as well. And then I'll jump into the rig quickly and I can show you how the rest of this is all set up. So we've got a little USB 3 hub here, and I'll link to that in the description below for you as well. And that is connected directly to the other USB 3 port here. Now, the reason why I'm not running the second webcam into it, even though it is USB 3, I found I was having a couple of bandwidth issues running two 1080 webcams, as well as a couple of other little bits and pieces. So I ended up connecting the second webcam to a separate USB bus US bus. I shouldn't say USB bus. That's like saying ATM machine. So the connections here are, we've got our Stream Deck connection, which is this little guy over here that I'll show you in just a moment. We've got our second webcam or our foot cam. And then we've got our connection to our little analog to digital converter there for our microphone. Now, the other thing that you've probably just noticed is this Elgato Keylight Air. Now, this can be controlled via a desktop machine. You can see the little console down there, as well as on the Stream Deck, as well as on a phone as well. So it's actually got a Wi-Fi connection built into it. And I'll show you just quickly on the Stream Deck here how this works. So we press on the Elgato button. We've got a on-off, so we switch it on. We've got a brightness control here, so it goes absolutely crazy bright all the way down as well. We've got a incremental color temperature adjustment, as well as our main steps as well. So we've got a 7000K, 6000K, and you probably can't really see it changing too much there on the video. There you go, you can see it kind of going an orange color now, and we hit 2900K there, and it kind of goes that sun red kind of color. So depending on the mood that we want, or depending on what else is going on in the background, to adjust our white balance, we can adjust the lighting accordingly. And of course we can adjust it here with the sliders too. So that's really convenient. And yeah, this thing goes thermonuclear bright. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't really drive with it shining in your face. So if you're looking at getting one of these, I definitely recommend the Keylight Air, the cheaper and smaller model, as being perfectly sufficient for this type of arrangement. You really don't need anything more than that, I don't think. Yeah, so that is working really well, and that's given a lot more lighting in my face. So one of the things that you guys have, I wouldn't say complained about, but mentioned a few times, is the inconsistencies with the lighting in a lot of my videos where I'm sitting in the sim. The reason for that is these Razer Kaio webcams are pretty much garbage. I really wouldn't recommend them. What I'm finding is every time I reboot the PC, regardless of what PC I haven't connected to, they completely lose their calibration, and I end up having to set everything up from scratch again. And yeah, even if I go into the little console, I'll show you quickly here now. We go into webcam, we go into properties and configure video. We've got the little console here. So these are all the adjustments that we have that we can play with, as well as camera control on the other tab as well. And yeah, what I find is every single time I reboot the computer, it all resets. And then the settings that I had in previously aren't the same as they were, this time. So what happens is if I put the same values in again, it still looks completely different. So that's the reason for the slight inconsistency in the video quality. I think what I'm going to look at doing as my next big upgrade is purchasing some more high-end camera gear, maybe using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, something like that, in place of these webcams, just to get a bit better quality video going on. But yeah, that is the reason for that. Now, one other thing that we've changed as well is we now have a decent quality boom here for our, what is it, a Rode Braodcaster microphone. So this is a blue compass boom. Now, this was ridiculously expensive. It was, I don't even want to say how much this thing cost, because I'm still a little bit angry about it, to be honest. But it's got this, the reason why I bought this one specifically is it's got a little tensioner spring in the base, which you can adjust to compensate for different weight microphones. What I've found is that, unfortunately, the spring tension does wonders on the bottom hinge, but not really anything for the top hinge. So when I pull this down, it has a tendency to spring back up again by itself, even with the spring loosened completely. And if I loosen it all the way out, then this becomes sloppy and the microphone kind of just sags down. So where I've got it now is sort of the sweet spot. But yeah, look, to be honest with you guys, for the money that this thing cost, I'm a little bit disappointed with how it performs. I think with a heavier microphone assembly on it, something that had a isolator assembly as well as a pop filter would probably be a little bit heavier and counteract that issue. But yeah, haven't been super thrilled with this. The mount up the top here as well doesn't have any sort of rotation on it. So basically what you're doing is you're unwinding the thread when you try to spin it. And then of course it becomes loose and it kind of just free spins. So yeah, for something that costs this much money, it really should do a better job than this. So I might have to look at some other alternatives. It works really well for the presentation desk, but it just hasn't turned out to be quite so good for in the sim rig. But anyway, moving down, we have our Race Logic VBox here, which we've been using a lot over the last couple of weeks. I've found it to be particularly useful for practice, like what I'm doing here in Assetto Corsa Competizione around Kyalami for my first OOR league race in a while, which is going to be coming up tomorrow on stream. So yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed or following on Twitch, now's a great time to get into that. But yeah, this thing's been absolutely awesome so far. A couple of little software glitches, which they're still working on. And they've actually just sent me through a new beta software to test out over the next week or so. Just a moment ago, I saw the email come through. But a bunch of things that we can go through here, a bunch of different options. What I'm finding most useful, as I said in the review video, which I'll link in the description for you guys, is the predictive lap timing, as well as the delta V in particular. That is really, really handy for practicing and, you know, finding where you're losing time around a corner, things like that. So really, really loving this guy at the moment. And then moving down, we have our SimCore mount, which you guys saw me review a couple of days ago. This has proven to be absolutely awesome. I've been using this for about a month now. I wanted to put a few hours into it before I did the review, and yeah, absolutely thrilled with it. As I mentioned in the review, really easy to adjust up and down, really easy to adjust the angle of the wheelbase as well without the whole thing collapsing down on you. So that has been absolutely awesome. I did end up having to get some slightly taller uprights. So yeah, only about 3 or 4 centimeters taller than what we had before. I wanted to make sure it was still low enough that it would fit under my monitors cleanly. But yeah, that's given me the extra height that I needed to get the wheel up to the height that I wanted. So that's been awesome. And then we finally have our SimLabs button box mount here as well. So just some self-tapping screws into the back into my plastic button box, which has seen better days these days. I've had all sorts of things screwed into it and, you know, all kinds of wires hanging out of it. This was a DIY job that I did a video on about 1.5 years ago now. And we since added a second Arduino box into it for the gauges. We did a DIY video on those as well. So we've got a boost gauge, water temperature gauge, and a tachometer with a shift light as well. And we can change the color of the tachometer. It lost its calibration when I cut the power a little while ago while everything was unplugged. So we can change that back again. Probably change that back to red, I think, so it looks a little bit more uniform. Other things you'll notice as well, we now have a headphone hook here, so I can easily reach my headphones instead of just sort of dumping them on the ground when I'm done. We've got our wind simulator, which again, we did a DIY for, mounted in exactly the same position on both sides now. So the fans are sitting down conveniently on either side, and that's working really nicely still as well. So yeah, this before was mounted on the opposite side and it was just a little bit kind of disjointed and all over the place. Also added leather grips for my Asher F28 SC as well. Decided I really loved the leather on the Fanatec F1 2020 wheel, so I changed this over to leather as well, and really loving those. What else have we done? We've moved the handbrake too. So the handbrake previously was up here. I've been getting a little bit more into drifting and rallying, or at least intending to. I haven't actually started yet, but what I found is having the handbrake over here was a little bit difficult to pull. It was kind of having to move my arm out to the side and pull it like that rather than pulling it towards me. And yeah, this was just a much more convenient place to mount it. So that's nice and close to the wheel now. I can just quickly grab it when I need to. I might add a little bit of extra length or try and move it up a little bit, but it's just mounted using the 2 side holes here on the opposing side, obviously, and that matches up perfectly with the slots in the 4080 profile from SimLabs. So that's working really nicely. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I showed you guys previously the adjustment rail that I put on the pedal, as well as the seat, so that I could slide that back and forth. And oh, the other thing that I've changed as well that I should mention is I'm now using a HDMI output. One of the things you guys have been asking me about quite a lot is whether I'm able to run my HP Reverb, which you see dangling under there, at the same time as my triple monitors. And what I figured out is if I use a very specific port combination on my Gigabyte 2080 Ti, or Aorus 2080 Ti, I should say. So if I use the bottom HDMI port as well as the 2 display ports down the bottom as well, I'm actually able to run it in NVIDIA Surround at 100 Hertz with no issues whatsoever, and I'm able to keep my headset plugged in at the same time. So that has made it a lot more convenient to switch between VR and triple screens as well. And I think that is pretty much everything. So there you have it, guys. That is an updated tour of the Boosted Media sim rig as it sits here in early to mid-June of 2020. So if you've got any specific questions, let me know in the comments below. Happy to answer as many of those as I possibly can. We also do have a lot more detailed videos on all the individual parts that go into making this as well. So check those out in the description. And as always, if you do want to pick up any of the gear that you've seen in this video, we do have some affiliate links in the description below. Those go a really long way to helping out this channel. Honestly, that's what makes all of this possible. So I really appreciate your support there as well. And that is pretty much it, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.